but and it may just work very much to his advantage because right now I've got no air defense. I'm not aware of this fire going up. And at the same time, I'm managing my units very poorly, losing these roaches out on the battlefield. Completely unnecessary. And so I've got no anti-air defense at all. My opponent is getting a Spire. This is very much unorthodox in today's Zerg versus Zerg for Starcraft 2. Usually, it just becomes a massive roach fest. And this could be bad for me, guys. The only anti-air unit I've got in the game right now is a single queen. And my opponent here moving in with his set of roaches. And look for the burrow. Yeah, my opponent burrows all of his roaches. He could have instead burrowed one by one and try to out-micro me. And concerned here that my enemy might have researched the ability to move underground, I quickly get an Overseer. Cost 50 minerals and 100 gas, and now I'm going to check around my base to see if those roaches are moving underground. And I've also snuck in an expansion, a secret expansion here at the 12 o'clock, not going for natural, instead going for a 12 o'clock expansion. That is where my natural is, and you guys can see that is empty. So we'll see if this expansion can kick into high gear for me. And at the same time, my opponent also grabbing an expansion at his natural. So both of us here, while we've got roaches out on the field, are looking to expand. And little do I know that there are Mutalisks on the way to my base. Unfortunately, 2 Mutalisks are not going to be able to take out a single queen. A queen is quite the powerful air defender with 9 damage and 7 range. You guys can see that the queen is attacking those Mutalisks. That Mutalisk is almost dying there. And at the same time, I realize that my opponent has Mutalisks, and the only option I've got is to move in with what roaches I have and try to do some damage right now, because the roaches are useless at defending against me. My opponent also getting 3 spine crawlers here, morphing into his base. But luckily for me, I've got a much larger number of roaches here, simply because my opponent decided to invest in a Spire and a Mutatech. And so my opponent here in a lot of trouble. I've got so many more roaches than him, and now I'm sniping out all of the drones. There's only about 6 or 7 left remaining, and they flee for life. And I'm doing a lot of damage to my opponent's economy here, actually killing the spawning pool. Probably should have went for the Spire instead. But I did a lot of economic damage there with what roaches I had, realizing that they were worthless at defending against Mutalisks. But herein lies a great problem. My opponent has a lot of Mutalisks in the air right now, and I am getting my own Spire, as you guys see there. But that is not going to be enough. I'm not sure if I'm going to have enough time, because if his Mutalisks move over to my base right now, the only thing I've got defending is a queen, and I would be in a lot of trouble. Luckily for me, my opponent doesn't know that I have snuck in at 12 o'clock, so we'll see if that comes into play and keeps me in this game. But these Mutas are hugely dangerous right now. I'm in a lot of trouble. And I've got no anti-air defense except a single queen. And I think right now I might have even thought about building a second queen, just primarily to defend against air. And yeah, there is a second queen right there. So I'm hoping 2 queens will be enough to defend against Mutas. And here come the Mutas. I do have roaches underneath to help absorb some of the bouncing blade fire. And desperately trying to defend with whatever I can, until I can get my own Mutalisks in the air, and there are my first pair of Mutalisks. So I breathe a sigh of relief there as my Spire finally gets constructed, and I've got my own Mutalisks in the air now. And my opponent's still not realizing I've got an expansion over there, although there are no drones mining as of right now. And here we go, big battle, 2 queens and 4 Mutalisks, plus 1 moving from the left, and my opponent has got to realize that there's a hatchery there, and he sees it now as he flies overhead. But this game is an extremely tense situation right now, as both of us are trying to find the proper position for our Mutalisks, trying to find the proper time to attack. And I still feel like I'm at a great disadvantage because my opponent has had Mutalisks for so much longer than me that I've got to play defensively and use my queens, or else I'll lose in the next air dogfight. But here I go in with my Mutalisks, trying to do some economic damage, as I realize that my opponent went down to the south to kill an Overlord. So his natural is exposed, and all of his drones go down at the natural. My opponent is chasing here. He's got one extra muta, but I quickly turn around and snipe the one with red light. And a bit of aerial dogfight there, reminiscent of Brood Wars. But no Scourge to be seen. Instead, we see the new Zerg anti-air unit, the Corruptor, which does good damage to air, but even more to massive. Unfortunately, to my opponent, Mutalisks are not massive air units, so they do not get a bonus against Mutalisks, and my expansion there does go down to the Roaches, and my Queen goes down as well, so I'm in a deficit right now. I don't have the extra larva to construct from, but I didn't lose any drones there. And my opponent here, those Corruptors are very cool units. They have extra abilities. They can corrupt a building for 30 seconds, preventing it from building anything, or even working in any function at all. And the second ability, of course, allows it to morph into the Broodlord, something that we haven't seen in any of my casts yet. And here we go, my opponent moving in with a couple of Roaches, but I don't know where most of his army's at. He's going to lose those Roaches. He does burrow them down, and his Mutas and Corruptors come into play here. But unfortunately for him, he has not been producing more Mutas. His economy, he has so much minerals and gas in the bank, and this is his mistake here, not macroing up while playing on the battlefield. And he's finding himself vastly outnumbered by my Mutas, even though he's got the Corruptors out. And those Corruptors quickly go down to my Mutalisks. And my opponent here in a lot of trouble. He doesn't seem to have any anti-air at all. And he announces GG, so that is good game number 13. ZvZ, hope you guys enjoyed that, and that was not the typical Roach battle that we usually see in ZvZ. So once again, if you guys like my videos, make sure to subscribe to stay up to date with more StarCraft 2 beta videos. And thanks a lot for all the support, guys. I really appreciate it. And that'll be it for Game 13, HD StarCraft. Signing out.